welcome back to the unofficial Maple Leafs post-game breakdown. Sorry for the little hiatus there for a bit, but when the Leaf games start at 10 o'clock or 9:30, it's just so tough to come out here and do a show, especially with how the weather's been and all the snow. It's too difficult, too late at night for that. But we're back now, so I'll do a show on this Winnipeg game. I got the Bozak jersey on tonight, the old style, the old style jerseys. Excuse me. Um, yeah, this was a big win. This was a really big statement win tonight. I was impressed with how they played. Especially after that big loss to Vegas, where they blew four two-goal leads throughout that game, and obviously all the controversy and questions around Mitch Marner in that game and how they were going to play, and it was honestly, they were just beating a dead horse at that point, just asking them so many questions, even making Matthews kind of pissed off there by just continually asking him about Marner. But yeah, you know what? Honestly, that was a tough loss. But then coming back to this game and then being down 3-1, and then a lot of chances they had, they couldn't really seem to get much going. But to their credit, they stuck with it, and they actually mounted a pretty serious comeback. And what was different about this third period compared to others is when the Leafs are down, they usually make some sort of, kind of fake comeback, and they put a little effort into at least kind of being good. But tonight it actually felt like they believed that they could come back and win this game. It wasn't a fake comeback. It wasn't a half-ass effort. It really felt like they believed that they could come back and win this game, especially with no Nylander, who's a huge part of your offense. He's the guy who's always carrying the puck and just keeping it out of those dangerous areas. Without him, I feel like a lot of guys stepped up tonight and they actually played a pretty good, solid game. I think that the goaltending was okay tonight. I don't think Hildeby had a great night or a bad night. It was kind of in between there, but he did make some huge saves at the end to sort of keep them in that game. But yeah, I think mainly the story of this game is like they just didn't give up. After that Vegas loss, I kind of would have I would have assumed that their morale would have been down and they just would have had every reason to kind of just pack it in tonight, but they didn't. And it's a bit of a different look for this Leaf team. Now, I know it's a long season, they got a lot more games to play here, but I don't know. I like Winnipeg is excuse me. Winnipeg is one of those teams where the Leafs know they should beat them. So I feel like even when they were down 3-1, they didn't fully believe that they were out of it. They're like it wasn't too far out of reach, and they were right. Um, Honestly, for this game too, I was watching it, but I also had one eye on football the whole night too. So don't have the most best statistical analysis of this game for the most part. So I'll keep it pretty quick. But I was impressed with it. I think I don't want to declare that the Leafs are back, but I think it's looking pretty positive. It's trending upwards, anyways. What I will say. I'm happy with how they're playing. I think that there's still going to be some rough games here and there, depending on injuries and how things are looking. But I feel like this group, day by day, is starting to come together and mesh just a little bit better. Every day, they're just starting to believe a little bit more that they can kind of pull this thing off. And it's nice to see. The regular seasons for the past, I don't know how many years, have just been, just kind of in like auto mode. You don't really pay attention too much, or at least, like the really hardcore fans do. But even then, you just they're gonna make the playoffs, and it's kind of just like a non-event, more or less. You kind of tune in April, but it's nice actually seeing them have to struggle and figure out a regular season and go through ups and downs and have a little bit of, I don't say controversy, but a little bit of difficulty put into every single game and effort in them. Because it makes me feel like as long as this season goes, they're going to get better. They're going to get, they're going to become a tighter group for the most part. And when playoff time comes, it feels to me like they're a little more built for the playoffs. Now, obviously, we've heard that 1,000 times before, but I guess this leads me back to kind of like the Mitch Marner point here. Is like I get that there's a lot of hate towards him, and I will be at that Vegas game this coming Friday, so I'm kind of excited, but also nervous to see how the reception for Mitch Marner is. But the main point that I'm trying to get to is, with him leaving, as bad as it was having that much skill leave the team, I think it was a good. I think it was an overall positive. And the reason is because now you don't have to rely so much on the core four and all your offense. Like I think it was like 52% usually of the offense is with those four guys. So now, because of the guys that they brought in who struggled at first, but now they've kind of found their way, they just seem to be more of an even team. You know, their offense is a little more spread out. They're a little bit of a rougher team, and they just seem like it's just a little more even team all over. You know, it's not like the offense is really good and the defense is bad. Like it just seems everything is kind of just even. I guess that's the only way I can really put it. But I would prefer a team like this going into the playoffs than to have the core four back and run it back into the playoffs again and then have them go nowhere. Like I really would prefer this team over last year's team. Now, maybe I'm alone in that, which is fine. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, but I think it was an overall positive. So I don't really understand all the Mitch Marner hate. I get that, he left, but I think personally he wanted to play here and he put all his chips on the table for one last run. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. And that proved the point that one of them needed to go. And he agreed to be the sacrificial lamb, I guess. So I don't think there's really a good reason to hate the guy. But, obviously it sucks that he left too. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how he's going to be perceived when he comes back. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of boos. But there's going to be, of course, the video tribute and everything else with it too. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. But I think because of him leaving, this team is actually in a better spot, and that's something that we saw tonight. Whereas, if we had our typical core four in a game like this, you would basically see Matthews and Marner or Nylander and Tavares out basically every other shift. It would be a two-line game. But you don't have that anymore. You have a lot more structure in the lineup. You have guys that, typically don't, provide that much offense, but they're still on the ice anyways, just to provide small plays, little support plays, little passes. Like, you get like Lorentz out there, Scott Lawton, even Max Domi a lot, who I don't, think is the best in high pressure situations. But I just think they're a lot more willing to trust their lower tier players than to just keep, rolling out the top four guys all the time, which I think, as we've seen, it just, you burn them out. By the time they get to the playoffs, there's just nothing left in them. So yeah, I think it's a positive thing. Especially with this game tonight too, getting into overtime and just getting a point. Like the Leafs, I don't exactly know what the stats are on it, but the Leafs have gotten, I want to say like, I don't know, 19 or 20 out of a possible like 22 points in the last little while here, which is a pretty friggin' incredible run. Like that's something that around the Christmas time, I really thought that wasn't even possible with this team, the way they were playing, but it really seems like they've just kind of figured it out and they've bought in. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positives heading into the Olympic break here. Obviously, they still got a couple more games to go, and it's going to be tight down the stretch with how much they play. But yeah, I honestly do. I want to say the Leafs are back. I think Matthews is obviously back. He's looked fantastic. So yeah, I think it's trending in the right direction. And at least for tonight, I'm going to take the win and just be happy about it because it was a hard fought win and 2 points that we really needed at this point. So it's something nice to see. That's pretty much all for tonight. I don't know when the Leafs play next. I think it was either Monday or Tuesday, but try to do a show after that one too. I think there's finally back to normal times, which is nice. The 7 or 7:30 starts, which is a lot easier for me. So hopefully I'll see you after the next Leaf game. And if you're tuning in to see this, I really appreciate it. Thanks.